Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Channeling History. You probably know it by now, but we're the only show where we speak to the souls that made things happen, and we're brought to you every Sunday night on the Parix Radio Network. I'm Barry Strohm, your host, and I'll be doing the spirit channeling tonight.
And I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host. We would like to thank all of you that take the time to listen to our show. Please tell your friends about us so we can continue to grow our audience because we think we're getting some good information out there. All of our shows are available for download on Podomatic.com.
Now tonight, we're going to bring you a very special show, and it's going to be dedicated to philanthropy, charity, and helping others. Our spirit guests tonight are going to be Paul Newman, Andrew Carnegie, and Milton Hershey. Each of these individuals performed actions of charity that helped many, many thousands of individuals through the years.
Paul Newman was a very famous actor that founded a food company named Newman's Own. All of the after-tax proceeds are given to charities. To date, Newman's Own has contributed over $570 million since 1982, and his contributions will continue far into the future. Andrew Carnegie was perhaps the first to state publicly that the rich have a moral obligation to give away their fortunes. In 1900, he sold his company to J.P. Morgan for $480 million and devoted the rest of his life to philanthropic activities. He managed to give away over $350 million before he passed away. That is the equivalent of $12.4 billion in today's dollars. His activities centered on education and world peace. Milton Hershey built his life on a philosophy of compassion. As his chocolate business flourished, he created a town for his employees that included free schools, theaters, and an amusement park. He transferred his entire wealth to the M.S. Hershey Foundation that continues to thrive to provide free education and thousands of children each year. He continued construction projects for his employees during the Great Depression and supported the World War II war effort. Today, the Milton Hershey Foundation has over $17 billion in assets. These are three wonderful souls that truly followed the words of God.
Okay, every night that we do a radio show, we also give a disclaimer. The opinions or statements voiced on our show are the channeled words of the spirits and do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the Parix Network or of our sponsors. We currently have over 360 videos available on our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. You'll find all of our channeling history shows are there, as well as all of the other podcasts and channelings that we do.
Last week, we had a very interesting interview with the spirits of World War II generals Erwin Rommel and George Patton. The show's available on our YouTube channel if you'd like to watch it if you missed it last week.
Now, as you probably also know, before we channel, we always have Connie give a prayer of protection, and we're going to do that tonight. So, Connie, let's do the prayer and get on with these wonderful guests.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God.
Okay.
Amen.
Okay. All right. We will not be bringing you a break tonight because we got these three wonderful guests and it's going to take the full hour. So, Connie, let's begin with the first discussion question.
Okay. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for returning to appear with us this evening. Would each of you like to make an opening statement?
Yes. Let's start with Mr. Newman, then we'll do Mr. Carnegie, and then Mr. Hershey. So, Paul, if you'd like to start first. Thank you very much for allowing me to come back. As you know, when you're in the movies, you get used to speaking to an awful lot of people. And I must admit, I lived a pretty good life. I hate to admit it, but what turned into this great charity was almost an accident. I used to make a very good salad dressing. My friends told me I should sell it. We actually set up a business and began to sell salad dressings and a few other things, and it caught on. I was truly amazed at how well it was doing. So I set the business up that we would give all of the profits from the business to charity. It's been a great thing. There have been a few abuses in current times, but I never ever expected that it would be this successful. I truly thank God for allowing me to do this thing. So, Mr. Carnegie, I lived in a very different time. It was a time of monopolies. I'll admit it. I did a lot of things that certainly wouldn't be allowed by law today, but I truly accumulated a huge fortune. I probably was one of the richest men or the richest man in the world at one time. After I sold my business, I knew that I had to do something with all this money. It was certainly more than my family ever needed. It was an incredibly huge sum of money for the time. So I felt that I would give it all back. After I sold the business, I retired, and I devoted the entire rest of my life to giving away my money. I think, as you said earlier, I managed to give away around $350 million, but there was still quite a bit left, and I left that to an endowment fund. I wanted the children to be educated. I felt that education was one of the most important things that you could ever do. Same today. Education is incredibly important. Without that, children have a very difficult time advancing. If you look at the kids in the inner cities, you'll see that they're suffering very poor educations. Part of the political system is really putting the hurt on them. I wanted world peace. Obviously, I missed that. World War I came along. But I tried to do the best I could. I hope that others will listen, and I hope that others will follow our directions. So, Milton, if you have something to say. Yes, I was orphaned. I grew up very poor. I had almost no education. But God directed me to have an immensely profitable business. I always felt that I wanted to help people. That was truly something that I always believed in. I had a wonderful wife. She loved children. We found out we could not have any. She passed very, very early in our lives. We were only together like 17 years. And after she passed, all I wanted to do was use the funds that we accumulated to building a city, a beautiful town, build a school, try to help orphan children, try to do as much as I could. I truly realized that it was only through God's blessings that I had accumulated so much money, and I truly wanted to use it as best I could to help others. So, Connie, I know you have some other questions, so if
I
you'd
do.
like to ask them.
Yeah. Would each of you please go a little bit deeper into your philanthropic endeavors? Like, explain a little more to us.
Okay, Paul's going to go first.
Okay.
As I said earlier, really, what turned out to be my most popular endeavor and most philanthropic was the salad dressings. It expanded. It happened to really catch on with the people. There were many that supported me in it. Now, I supported charities throughout my life. As I made more money, I tried to give money to help others. I did not want my money to be useless. And in those days, I made a fair amount. I was very, very lucky and blessed to be as successful in the acting business as I was. Today, the company still gives its profits, its after-tax profits, back to the many different charities. I should have been a little more careful in stating limitations on how much people working for the charities could make. And I should have probably done more to direct where the monies went. But as you pointed out, we've given over $500 million to charity through this business. While the other gentlemen that are with me did many, many more things than I did, I still think that I'm very pleased with the impact that I had in helping others. Mr. Carnegie. I didn't think it would be so difficult to give away that much money. But I tried my darndest. I started Carnegie Mellon Institute of Higher Learning. It turned out to still be one of the greatest colleges in the country. They are following a few policies that I wouldn't believe in now, but that is, I guess, the trend of things. I started other universities, banks. I tried to do as much as I could do. In those days, there were no really large charities. So we had to start them. I had to hire people that would try to do the best in making the most of the monies. Economics were very, very different in those days. You didn't have the Federal Reserve trying to make decisions that would determine the direction of the economies. I felt that education, just the same as Milton felt, that education of the children was what would determine the future of our country. In those days, educations were relatively poor. There were some very, very expensive colleges, but the public education system suffered greatly. There were some good teachers. We tried to figure ways that we could bring education to the kids that couldn't afford it. The concept of public education was just really getting started. It was a time of much industrial change in the United States and around the world. To be honest with you, I never thought it would be so hard to give away that much money. It took me almost 10 years until I passed. I did my best, and I really enjoy still being able to see the lasting benefits of what I did. I did libraries. I did schools. I tried to do the best I could with educating the folks.
Okay.
Mr. Hershey. I had many problems early in my life. And as you probably know, I had two different businesses go bankrupt. And it was really, I was getting almost into my 40s before I really succeeded with the Caramel Company. But I always knew that I wanted to help others. When I sold the Caramel Company for $1 million, in those days, that was a lot of money. I wanted to move to a rural area where I could start to work with chocolate. I felt that the chocolate was just for the rich in those days, and I wanted to make it available to everyone. So I built a factory near what is now the town of Hershey. It was very close to where I was born, so I knew the area. I also knew that there were wonderful farmers in the area that could supply milk for the milk chocolate. But I always felt that if I had happy employees, that they would work hard, that they would want to stay with the company, and that they would just do a better job than if you paid minimum wages and let the employees shift for themselves. I built an amusement park for my employees, swimming pools, ballrooms. I did as much as I could to help with the standard of living for those that worked for me in Hershey. When the Depression came, I started construction projects so that they could be gainfully employed. None of you out there understand just how terrible the Great Depression was. In those days, our political system didn't know how to handle depression. Many people were in soup lines. It was just a terrible, terrible time. I tried to support to the best of my ability all of my employees through that period. I built what I considered then the industrial school. It was for orphan boys, and yes, I'm sorry I didn't allow girls into it at that time. But I built buildings. I brought children in need. I put them in what we called, they were actually farms. We referred to them as units. We taught those boys how to work, do farm work, how to support themselves, how to become educated. And I never charged them for anything. When my beautiful wife passed, I turned all my money over to a foundation that would support the school. As I look at it today, we have several thousand children enrolled there, and now we'd have boys and girls there. Along with Andrew, I think that education is the most important thing that anybody can do. If that younger generation does not have the direction, the understanding of the words of God, the knowledge to be gainfully employed, then the future is very dim for our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Why did each of you feel that charity and giving to others was so important in your lives?
Paul, I hate to say this, but through much of my life, I really didn't regard charity as being that important. But as I became more successful, I understood that there's only so much that you can do with your money. Once you've made a certain amount of money, you really have no need for any more. Today, I see many of these individuals make incredible sums of money. They squander it. I look from over here and I see just how much good they could do with that money, and it makes me very sad. I think that I was receiving messages from God. I would dream about the fact that I was supposed to help others. And I always believed in God. I knew He was real. And I wanted to do the best I could for Him. If you've never helped others, you will never know true happiness. Mr. Carnegie. Paul has just summed that up pretty well for us. As I was growing my wealth, I guess I could have done a lot more for my employees. I guess that I could have done more for charities through that period of time. But as I grew older, I started to understand, I guess through dreams and messages that I received, that God truly wanted me to help others. I felt that I could only do so much with my money. I arranged for that my family would be comfortable. And once I did that, I still had so much money left over. Once I sold the company, I found incredible happiness in trying to build charities and helping others. I can assure you that no one will ever know true happiness until they have somebody come to them and just tell them how you have changed their lives. I died a very happy person. I died knowing that what I did would continue to help others for many, many years in the future. Mr. Hershey? I grew up as a Mennonite. The church is a very ordinary church. They do very common things. But it is instilled in you to help others. The Mennonite religion is a very, very beautiful religion. Many people don't understand it. It's a plain religion, but it just truly focuses on how they interpret the teachings of God. And charity is very, very important in their teachings. I think that my Mennonite background had a lot to do with me wanting to help others. I realized that an individual only needs so much money to be very, very comfortable. I know that God wants people to be happy and comfortable. And I knew that after all my failures, it was only through the blessings of God that I was going to reach such success. And I wanted to pass that success on to many other people.
Now that each of you are on the other side, please tell us what you've learned about the importance of charity.
Charity is Paul speaking. Now that we're over here, I see that charity and helping others is one of the most important teachings of God. If you do not help others, you will be judged harshly for it. I see many of my friends come home and they had accumulated great wealth and they did not use it to help others. For that, they at the least will not advance in the realms of heaven, and they will have a karma to pay when they return for the next lives. So charity is incredibly important. Mr. Carnegie. I always believed in God. I always read the Bible. I understood what I was told in the Gospels. Faith, hope, and charity, helping others, the golden rule. I must admit, there were times in my life that I put all that in the background. But when I obtained such an amount of success and financial gain, I truly understood that it was only through the blessings of God. And I would have dreams where Jesus would come to me and he would say, Andrew, it is now time for you to help others. It is what I did. And there may perhaps be things more important than showing charity when you return to heaven. For instance, if you kill others, that's a terrible sin. Trying to obtain power, wealth. There are many things that can give you a poor judging when you get back. But charity is at one of the top of the things on the list. You do not have to be wealthy to show charity. Your time, you can use your time to show charity. But in the eyes of God, you want to do the best you can. Mr. Hershey. I always felt that charity and helping your fellow person was one of the most important things that you could do. Now that I'm over here, I truly understand that I was correct in that. God truly wants you to help others. He wants you to be happy. And if you don't help others, you are not going to ever know the true happiness that you truly can find in your heart. The individuals that show charity in their incarnate lives are going to have a wonderful karma in their next lives. If you abuse others, if you see people that need help and you don't help them, then you're creating a very negative karma. I have seen many people come over here that have made great wealth in their lives. When they return in their next lives, they are off the karma that they create will often bring them a path of poverty so that they truly understand what it was like to have individuals abuse them. The gift of giving, you will find, will bring you the greatest happiness that you can ever have.
As you watch from the other side, what do you see as the areas of the greatest needs of charitable assistance these days?
Paul. Well, as you know, I found my success in Hollywood, California. Today, the cities in California are besieged by the homeless. They're drawn there because of the great temperatures. California has incredible wealth. The individuals with that incredible wealth look down on those people that are living in the street. They avoid the towns where they are. They live in mansions that are surrounded by security and fencing. I think that homelessness, especially in this time of inflation, where people are having more problems, where people can't support their families, can't give them educations. I think that homelessness is probably one of the greatest problems we are currently facing today, Mr. Carnegie. Once again, I agree with Paul just said. Homelessness is a terrible problem. But I would like to look at homelessness as a wider part of understanding poverty. The government today has many policies that are hurting individuals. The current inflation is creating much poverty. That poverty affects the young. That poverty affects their education. And that poverty puts a terrible load on the parents. There has to be a war on poverty. The politicians today have got to face up to what needs to be done to help poverty. If you cure poverty, then you will go a long way towards curing homelessness. Mr. Hershey. As part of the lack of education, the lack of income for individuals, we're seeing many, many more people turning to drug addiction. I think that much more money has got to be put towards curing drug addiction and towards curing mental illness. In many instances, we watch from over here and we see that mental illness leads to poverty, leads to homelessness, and leads to drug addiction. So I think more funding has got to be diverted towards helping the mentally ill, towards giving them adequate medical care. I think that with all the great wealth that we've accumulated, it is a terrible crime that we have so many people that are suffering from physical problems where they can't afford medical care, or from drug addictions.
Okay. What would you tell individuals that have accumulated this great wealth and do not use any of it to help others?
Paul, I would tell them that they're headed for great problems. I knew many people with great wealth. Many of them were very self-centered through being in the entertainment industry. Many of them had huge egos. And I honestly think many of them thought they could take that money with them when they died. Well, I can tell you they can't. They need to share their wealth. Individuals of great wealth that do nothing to help others will face a very, very harsh judgment. God blesses people to accumulate great wealth. If they do not use that great wealth, they're going against his blessings and against his help. So I would just say that they should face certain realities in their life. They may kid themselves, but they will not take it with them. Mr. Carnegie. God blesses people to make great wealth. You cannot do it without having the guidance of the spirit guides, the angels, God himself. People come back with life plans where they're going to be given great wealth. Many individuals think that it's all through themselves. Many people don't even believe in God. Many people don't know whether they should believe in God or not. I can tell you from over here that God truly exists, along with his angels and all of his other helpers. We try to help others from here. If you have excess wealth and just simply accumulate it and do nothing with it to help others, you're going against one of God's greatest wishes, which is the act of helping others. Mr. Hershey. Once again, I'm going to draw on my Mennonite religion. In the Mennonite church, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you is very, very important. I know that we have listened from over here to many of the messages of Jesus that he's given to all of you and made those messages available. Almost every message contains the golden rule. I put myself in the position of an individual that was working for me or that was living in poverty, and I said to myself, what would you have someone do to help you? I truly tried to do that. I said, what if I was an orphan? I had no education. That is why creating the industrial school became an obsession with me. I managed to succeed only through the blessings of God. I understood that. I knew that was real. I knew that was the way of things. If you don't believe in God, then you have no compulsion about what you do unto others. I would hope that anyone listening to me that has great wealth, or even just simply excess wealth, puts himself in the place of that person in poverty. What would you have someone else do unto them if you were in that position? All the messages of God that we hear are really quite simple. And I think if you would put yourself in the position of that person in poverty, you would have a totally different understanding of what you should be doing with your money.
Yeah. What would you tell individuals that do not have excess wealth but want to help others?
Paul, I didn't always have money. I always wanted to, but I was very, very blessed by God with my appearance, with my acting abilities, with all the things that allowed me to succeed in the entertainment industry. I should have done more in the early days. I could have used my time. Everyone, unless they're working 80 hours a week, should have some spare time. Time can be charity. Use your spare time that you have to help others. Go to shelters, try to help individuals, work with families that are homeless. Time is an absolute tool that you can help with which you can help others. Mr. Carnegie. Others, people that are not blessed with great funds, can do much. Many of you live in democracies. Organize others. Work with other people to form groups that can bring political pressure to help others. Many of your politicians are very crooked today. Many of them don't care about the poor. They look down on them with disdain. They wish they don't exist. They just look at them as problems that they refuse to solve. Organize. Use your time to build political groups that can influence the politicians and can force them to work in a manner of which they were chosen by the people. Mr. Hershey. I lived 40 years of my life without money. I would borrow funds to start my businesses. I had 2 businesses go bankrupt. I had problems paying my bills. But I always tried to help others. When you're on the street, simply say hello, have a wonderful day. Is there anything I can do to help you? Hold the door for people when they enter a building. Use your time wisely. Many people could do things with their time. They can go to battered women's shelters. They can help bring security to neighborhoods. They can volunteer with sporting teams. They can help the children. They can teach them to swim. They can teach them athletics. There are many, many things that people without funds can do to help others.
Okay, if each of you were to reincarnate today, what would you choose as a life plan?
Paul, that's a very interesting question. I've been thinking about coming back. I think the one thing that I wouldn't want to be is a politician. I think that there are so many pressures on politicians today that it's not something I would want to do. I'd thought about perhaps coming back as a missionary. Missionaries are very, very important today. The world is opening up. There are many areas of the world where people are living in poverty. There are many areas where there are not enough doctors to help them. There are so many opportunities to help others today. I believe that if I came back today, I would probably be a missionary. Mr. Carnegie. If I came back again today, I would try to be a businessman again. I loved working my businesses. I loved growing them. I would try to get a good education. I would try to do as much as I could to gain wealth. And I would use a very large percentage of the wealth that I gained, once again, to help others. So I think I would truly do what I would like, what I feel would be the best for me and would be the best for many other people. Would be if I came back again as a businessman, use the experience of what I see from this side, and the experience that I would try to carry forward into a future life for my business successes. Mr. Hershey. I think if I came back again, I would probably reincarnate as a minister. Throughout my life, I felt incredibly close to God. I tried to pass on his words, and I tried to do what I thought he wanted me to do. I think if I truly reincarnated, and I am considering it because the world needs much help right now, that I would try to come back as a minister and help pass the words of God onto as many people as possible.
Okay. Many of our messengers speak of the proper education of the young. What changes would each of you make to our educational system?
Paul. There are so many problems with our educational system today that it is very difficult to have a starting place. I think that the greatest need is in educational systems for the young, for the very young. By the time a child is 15, 16 years old, they've pretty well set a lot of their character patterns. I think that the governments today should make greater amounts of money available for child care so that the children are well taken care of when both of the parents have to work. They should put more money into the kindergarten systems and elementary education. There should be many checks on what are taught to the children. My suggestion would be to have teachers be tested every several years so that they're up to date on the latest educational systems. Mr. Carnegie. I focused on higher education. Today, many of the colleges have become so incredibly expensive that only children of the wealthy have access to many of the big name colleges. I think that money should be made available for more community colleges. I especially think that money should be made available to individuals of higher intellectual abilities so that they are given the opportunity to truly advance without running these great debt loads that the kids are getting today. Mr. Hershey. I believe that more money should be spent on technical schools. There are many very talented individuals today, men and women, who really do not profit from college educations. They need to be taught to be carpenters, plumbers, electricians. There need to be accessible schools where teach an individual to earn a good living without running the charges of a college education. Today, you see many kids getting degrees that are basically worthless, and they are not trained in order to make a living. I think that all children should be taught finances. They should be taught how to maintain their checking accounts, work with banks, and especially to invest their money wisely. Your government today has ruined the Social Security system, the blankets that people need, they are leading the country towards financial ruin. And it will be very critical that each individual understands how to invest their money so that they can have a decent retirement.
I think you guys should reincarnate and take over our educational system. How would each of you tackle our homeless problem?
Paul. The homeless problem, especially in California, has got many roots. The political system has absolutely no clue how to handle the emergency. I would start by providing shelter. I would start by making it possible that no one had to live in the street. I would try to find them jobs, and I would try to give them a religious foundation. Mr. Carnegie. It's kind of difficult following Paul. He usually comes up with some of the things that I was going to say. Homelessness is a cancer. It's a cancer of the inner cities, especially. The politicians of the inner cities have refused to do meaningful things for these individuals. They must provide medical care. Many of them have got mental issues that could be addressed. Many of them have psychological problems. We have veterans with PTSD. There are many, many reasons why people are homeless. Few of them are being addressed. It's a very, very sad situation. Mr. Hershey. If you provide good living conditions, a good living wage, good medical care, many of the things that I provided in the town of Hershey, you do not see many homeless. Homelessness is ridiculed by many. The government, in most instances, causes people to be homeless. So it is only through people in government that care about the homelessness that anything will ever take place. As long as your politicians care more about political power, money, wealth for themselves, then homelessness will continue to be a problem. It is only if the voters put in people that care about the homeless that anything will ever happen.
If you were alive today and placed in charge of a large charity, what type of charity would it be, and to whom would you direct the benefits of the charity?
Paul, I would direct many of the benefits of a current charity to military veterans that are suffering from PTSD, are having trouble finding employment, or otherwise having problems. There are many charities today that are doing that, but it seems as though the problems are far exceeding the ability of these charities. So I think if I was to start a charity today, it would be for our military veterans. Mr. Carnegie. If I was to start a charity today, it would be directed towards the young that have graduated from high school and need additional training. I agree with Milton that there is a great need for technical colleges today. I would start more community colleges because many individuals don't need a 4-year education. But I would start providing scholarships and especially try to help those individuals that I think would turn to lives of helping others as well.
Okay. Each of you started philanthropic endeavors that still bring huge benefits to individuals that need help. What do each of you think about how your charities are being handled today?
Paul, I am generally pleased with what is taking place. I know that there have been some abuses, but whenever individuals handle such great funds of money, they are susceptible to abuse. But all in all, I think that my charity is doing quite well. Mr. Carnegie. I think that my charities are doing fairly well today, as many of the institutions like Carnegie Mellon are still wonderful institutions of learning. I think in general that there could be improvements, but all in all, I would be very, very satisfied with it, Mr. Hershey. I am quite delighted with what is happening. I would like to see more of the net worth of my charities being used. The charities have accumulated a great amount of wealth, and I think that they do not need to have that amount of money. So when they have so many billions of dollars, I think that they should be applying more to help others. But generally, I think they've done a pretty good job.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Would each of you like to make a short closing statement?
Paul, yes, thank you very much. I hope that some people have taken time to listen to us. I hope that they followed my advice. And I hope that they continue to support Newman's Own. So thank you for having me. Mr. Carnegie, thank you for having me back again. I enjoy being able to speak. I hope that many of the individuals out there with great wealth will pay attention to what I did. I tried to talk the talk, and then I walked the walk. And I would hope that many of the billionaires out there would follow the path that I followed. Mr. Hershey. Thanks once again for allowing me to come back. I tried to do my best. I tried to fulfill as much of the hopes of the people that worked for me I tried to make their lives as comfortable as possible, and I tried to do what I thought God wanted me. So thank you for having me. If you ever want me to come back, I would be happy to do so.
Thank you so much. You all did some wonderful things for society, and I hope some more people will follow your fine example.
Okay, next week we got a very, very interesting roundtable. We're going to be channeling the spirits of the great Greek philosophers at the same time. Imagine Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato sitting at the same table, spirit table that is, and discussing the modern questions of the world. I think that this is going to be a very interesting show. Tell your friends. Connie and I are starting to do something very special on Tuesday morning at 9 p.m. Pacific. She and I are going to be starting another project intending to bring you as much information as possible about God and the afterlife. We're going to be getting a new radio show on the Voice America Variety Radio Network. It's going to be entitled Spirit Speak, Analyzing the Afterlife. Please tell your friends and join us. We are doing everything we can to pass on God's words, and I would hope that you do the same. You can submit questions and suggestions for future Channeling History shows at channelinghistoryontparax@gmail.com. My 8th book, Messages of God for a Modern World, is available in softcover and ebook on Amazon. It's a compilation of 60 channeled messages from Jesus. It's a great book. It's a great devotional. I would hope that you tell your friends about it. They make great presents. And it's his words. If you want to pass on the words of God, that's the way to do it. It's available on Kindle as well. Signed copies are only available on my website. That's barrystrohm.com. So all of our shows are available on our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. You want to download them, you go to podomatic.com and just search Channeling History. We hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I know I did. I thought it was incredible. Those are 3 great, wonderful individuals. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being in our chat room, paying attention to what we're saying, and thank you for telling others about our different shows. You can join us every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Parax Network.
And I would also like to thank all of you for joining us, our listeners and our guests. It's great. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.